Hello everyone, Dr. Weston here at the Chiropractic Wellness Center, and we are continuing our conversation on stress awareness. If you saw our video last week with myself and Dr. Maria, we talked a little bit about how November is Stress Awareness Month, so we're going to continue that conversation today. All right, so now with stress, there's a couple different types of stress, okay? There's short and long-term stress. Now short-term is actually good for us. This is going to be things like that stress our body, right? So we have exercise, getting in the sauna, ice baths, intermittent fasting, that type of stuff. It produces a positive effect on the body as long as it's done in a short period of time. Now, when stress becomes a bad thing is when we see long-term stress or chronic stress. Now, this long-term stress is going to put us in a hypersympathetic state. You might have heard me talk a little bit about the parasympathetic nervous system last week. We have two different nervous systems or autonomic nervous system sets. And so that sympathetic is our fight or flight, and parasympathetic or a PNS is our rest and digest. Now, we'll spend time in both of these, and both have their uses, but when we spend time, a little bit too much time over here, and can be vice versa, it can become a bad thing. Now, stress has a pretty big cost on our society. The American Stress Institute estimates that roughly 83% of U.S. workers is significantly affected by stress in some way. Now, that's a lot of people, pretty much everybody. And this is going to have a pretty big monetary cost on our society as well. They estimate that up to $190 billion is spent, that's with a B, in healthcare on stress-related care, as well as up to $300 billion lost in businesses and the workforce, missing work, that type of stuff. It also is attributable to 120,000 deaths per year. Now, it's a pretty big cost. So, a couple negative effects of this chronic long-term stress is it's a huge effect in chronic disease. Now, we know that it is for a fact, a big contributor to things like cancer, diabetes, heart disease, strokes, all these types of different things. And those are pretty big killers in our society, and something that we want to try and mitigate wherever we can. And kind of on the same lines is it contributes to chronic inflammation. Now, inflammation in the body over a long period of time essentially ages you faster. You're going to not function you're not going to function as well, and really is a big driver in many of those chronic diseases. You also see a lot of hormone disruption. Now, when we are in a stressed out state for a long period of time, we see increases in a certain hormone called cortisol, and this cortisol can cause all kinds of different problems. It can mess with your estrogen, testosterone, it'll mess with all kinds of stuff. Not great. And then along with that, kind of along the same lines, is we see decreased immune function with chronic stress, and with kind of flu season right around the corner, not something that we want to have, right? And as well as some decreased bodily functions. Now, when your body is stressed out, it's not going to be focused on other areas as it might or should be. So you can even see some digestive issues or sexual dysfunction, things like that can be related to that chronic stress. So today I want to finish with giving you guys some things to avoid. I think it's easier to take things out than to add new things in. So that's what we're going to start with, okay? So big thing, and all of these are kind of related in some sense, but avoiding negative thoughts. So our outlook on life is very important, and that is a big one that kind of ties a lot of these in, but as well as emotions and avoiding negative people, situations, that type of stuff. Surrounding yourself in people that are positive, people that are happy, is also going to rub off on you. Okay, so some different sources of these negative thoughts and things is the news. Now, it's important to be informed, I think, but it is also important to get that from a source that isn't necessarily gloom and doom all the time. And another great thing is to try and not focus on things that are outside of your control. When you focus on what you can control, kind of helps you not be so stressed out about everything or the world ending, all that fun stuff. So focus on what you can control. Now, some things we want to avoid are inflammatory foods. Now, that really ties in a lot with our chronic disease and chronic inflammation. These are things like processed grains, processed sugar, high fructose corn syrup, as well as seed oils. So those are all not great for you. Actually super bad, some of the worst things that you can put in your body. So that is going to be an extra stressor on the body on top of everything else. So we want to try and avoid those, as well as things like alcohol. Now, other things here, we have sedentary habits. Now, when we're sit still, we're not getting exercise. We know that does increase chronic inflammation along with a host of other things. So get out and go move your body today. Okay, we have holding grudges. Now, holding grudges, ruminating on the past is not doing anybody any help, and you can't really go back and change that. So try to let go of those and not hold them, as it's negatively affecting your health and probably those around you. And last, we have social media overuse. Now, that kind of ties a little bit into some negative news and negative thoughts. And so it's important to limit that time, not compare yourself to others, and try to structure your social media to where it is constructive, whether that's positive people or what have you, things that are good. So thanks for tuning in today. Hope you found some of this helpful, and tune in next week. We'll talk about some things to do to help naturally alleviate stress. We'll see you then.